Here we go. Game day on the Real Kyper and Bourne Show. Wherever you're watching, listening. Sportsnet 590, Sportsnet 360, Sportsnet Plus, 4 to 6. Here we are. If you can't catch us live, download us. Still get us. We are available. Guys, how are we feeling today? Sammy, stand up.
Get the camera
Stand
to
up,
cut
Sammy.
Standing up.
Stand up.
Oh.
Stand up.
Jacket.
Hey, look at you, Sammy. Look at you. Looking fantastic. JB, take a bow.
Yeah,
we got
thank
a little
you.
blue going.
We do. It's the blue on blue. It's Hockey Night in Canada vibes, I'd say.
Well,
Big day. When Kyper tells me to put on a jacket and a tie,
It's the
it's
jacket.
it's special.
I do it. I
It's
just listened
special.
to you and I
Playoffs,
did
baby.
it. So
Well, you look like
thank you.
short about a 999,000 from a million.
Thank
I
you.
was saying, if the Leafs win tonight, every day Sammy has to add one more fancy piece, maybe a top hat, a cane, a three-piece,
I will say,
a monocle.
if they do win tonight, and we are on tomorrow at 11 a.m. So if you're listening, we'll be on 11 a.m. to 12 because of the Jays again. I will be wearing probably the exact same thing.
It's a beautiful jacket.
You can't make those type of comments without coming to your consultant first.
Right.
Okay? So let's
Vibes consultant.
Let's
Kypreos.
just get through the first 10 minutes of the first period
Yeah,
before we go
That's
anywhere
very fair.
on your wardrobe tomorrow. Okay?
Okay. All
Outside
good.
of that,
Yep.
plenty to dissect in the next hour on our Leaf edition of the Real Kyper and Bourne Show. And by the way, Derek Brandale, David Sispoonba, along for the ride for the next 2 hours. How are we feeling coming home off a 1-1 split for the Toronto Maple Leafs?
Good. I mean, you know, I hate to say it because that's typically the places where they let us down and let their fan base down historically. But there's no reason not to feel good. Pretty much the same lineup as the last time, as we understand it. They haven't got peak performances from some of their very good players, and I'm talking about even their whole decor. So I feel good. They're in a good position to play well. Samsonov seems to be in a good headspace.
Nervous.
Yeah.
As nervous as you were going into game 2?
I don't think I was very nervous going into game 1 because I kind of got what I expected in that baby. Game 2, you're nervous, and it's a different type of nerves because it feels like the series may be close. Not over, but it's a big hole to go into.
Yeah.
But coming home, you know, just having Matthews have that moment, feels like they're feeling great. And like you said, this is kind of the spot where it doesn't go so well. So I'm a little bit apprehensive about tonight because I'm cautiously optimistic, which is a problem.
Please win.
So I'm nervous. I'm very nervous about tonight.
And you?
It's got a potential to be a great hockey game, I think.
I think especially again with the history of being at home and sometimes the struggles, the first 5 or 10 minutes are imperative. They cannot, that building will be electric going into it. You can't lose them with a down 1-0 or down 2-0. If you start chasing it, I'm not saying that the game's done and over with at 2-0, but that's what you want to avoid.
And it's just such a good team when they're defending a lead, right? Like they're really responsible. We talked about the odd man rushes that they give up, which are not many. So yeah, you start to chase the game and they don't have to take chances. It's just going to get harder. So a crucial first 5 minutes tonight.
Yeah, I actually wore this suit because instead of wearing a jersey, I wear what most people wear in the lower bowl at the Scotiabank Arena. So this is my Scotiabank Arena outfit.
You're ready to cut a deal, a multi-million-dollar deal.
Yeah, they got to be loud tonight, okay?
Sushi in a neutral.
And
It's the,
I do hate when people get on them or whatever and they go down early and there's a lot of scars. I understand that. But from the opening puck drop, we're looking for some loud.
Yeah.
Loud.
Well, let's go to Sheldon Keefe for our first Kyper's Clipper and see what he's looking forward to tonight.
Well, the atmosphere, I think, will be great here at home. You know, it's a great atmosphere down in Boston, playoffs, all that kind of stuff. So you're excited for that. In terms of the game and our team, we just expect to keep doing what we've been doing. You know, got to continue to embrace the things that we've done really well here, and clean up the things that we haven't done well, and recognize that each shift in each game is going to continue to get harder. Boston's going to push back real hard tonight, and we'll have to be ready for that. Even the other night we liked our game a lot. There's not a lot between the two teams here, so we'll have to be really good again here tonight, clearly.
So much to get into on the ice, and we'll do that as well in the next 27 minutes with Gord Stellick, Toronto Maple Leaf analyst for Sportsnet, will join us, and we'll dissect a lot of things, including the big story off the ice, and that is Willie.
Where's Waldo?
Where
Willie
is Willie Waldo?
Where is Willie?
Skating again today.
Okay.
Skating around the ice, looking like he took some line rushes. So skating.
But he again stayed out after skate with the
mystery
scratches,
continues.
which tough to imagine him doing that and then playing.
I don't expect to see him.
No.
No.
I mean, would you want to hear what the coach said?
I'd love to hear it.
Matthews wasn't at practice today as well, which sent
Yeah.
shivers up and down every
Did he leave a window open for Willie?
Let's play the clip. There's an update on Willie and Matthews. So play the clip there, Derek.
There's a chance. Obviously, still out there getting work, and everything for him is just how he responds, and take it from there.
Why did Austin miss this morning?
Just decided to keep him off. That's it. Just took the option. He'll be good to go tonight.
Okay.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
So that's exactly what he's leaving it open to come to the rink and see how you feel.
Yeah.
Which happens a lot.
Yeah. And as I said yesterday, that to me is, hey, other side, spend some time worrying about how your lineup changes if we have Willie in.
I was listening to Bunkus and Sid 680 talk about this today, and the way that it's kind of been talked about is that it really feels that the Leafs have drawn the picture that this is kind of Willie's decision the whole way through. Like it was an interesting conversation. They haven't been like, he's banged up.
Yeah.
He's banged up and we're going day by day here or whatever. They've been like, he may play tonight. We'll see how he feels. We'll see how he feels.
I give them credit though. This is some Lou Lamoriello level. Yeah. Like even behind the scenes, no one's saying, you know what it is. Like I got nothing.
There's nothing. Like, do you have anything concrete?
It is bizarre.
Bizarre.
It is bizarre. And it does set them up for, like, if this thing goes south in the first round, they lose, I think this will garner a ton of attention.
For sure.
Right?
Absolutely.
As a distraction? What?
I don't know about distraction so much as an excuse. Another thing to lean on to say, well, if we had Willie, another way out.
Oh boy.
But
I actually hadn't thought about that.
if it's just face value,
yeah,
which is he wasn't healthy. He didn't get medically cleared.
Mm-hmm.
He was unavailable.
Yeah. Okay.
Does that end it for you?
Sure. Does it not for you is a much better question. Does it not for you?
It's still a yes.
Yeah.
Because that's the way it usually works this time of year.
Yeah.
Where guys want to play and they're told not to, which goes totally against Bunkus and
Sid we're talking
about. Sid.
It's just something that I hadn't thought about.
I don't necessarily see this being we think you're good to play, but Willie, you don't want to play.
Yeah.
I don't see that.
Or is it a situation where they think like maybe he's been cleared, but it's a pain threshold thing and he's maybe not ready to go and there's something going on with that? Like, I don't know.
If it's a pain threshold thing, he's not cleared.
Okay.
He's not cleared.
All right. I don't know. I'm searching for answers like everyone else.
For sure.
They've left it to speculation.
There's just, as they should, for the record, they should do that. And there's no chance that when the series ends, let's say he never plays, they lose 6 games. You know how after series over, they go, this guy had this, that guy had this. And they go, Willie was just uncomfortable. Like you're going to hear, like something's up.
Mm-hmm.
Can
we rule out a concussion?
No.
I don't think you can at all.
No.
Because you're not supposed to be on the ice 3 days after a concussion. The protocol is off the ice for 7 days, and then bike and then go on the ice.
Isn't it like no symptoms for 24 hours? Then you can like test with exercise. Could this just be exercise?
That's if you're trying to debate whether or not you were concussed to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
But if there's a sense that he was concussed and he missed the first game because of it, and then you threw him back on the ice 3 or 4 days later, that's not what we're accustomed to, knowing how to return from a concussion after all these years.
I immediately think that's it. After never having considered
right?
it.
Or do we just...
I immediately think that's
do we just lump this in with the spotter? Because that is turned into the biggest joke in the league, is that, okay, some guys are getting sent off and then others you choose to ignore.
I mean,
is that what's going on here?
Ilya Samsonov took an 85-mile-an-hour wrist shot straight in the bean on Tuesday or whatever night that was, and they didn't do anything. Game 2, they didn't do anything. So
prior to the 7-second goal.
But I can see the Leafs, if it is a head thing, you don't want to have any outside input into protocols or whatever. You just want your guy to play as soon as he can play.
I just think if he's concussed and there's still symptoms, you don't skate on the ice. I'm sorry. You just don't go out there.
Right. But the all coming back from a concussion is ramping it up. Can you do this?
Yeah.
We'll see how you feel tomorrow. You okay?
Yeah.
Can you do this now?
Yeah.
So you feel tomorrow?
And you're
okay?
And you're in the fast lane at Disneyland, right? You don't have to. You don't have to wait.
Pass.
You're not waiting like everybody else.
Yeah.
We're putting you on the fast track.
Can you do this? You can. What about this? What about this? They're trying to see how fast. I don't know. We don't know. But it's definitely as valid a theory as back, or I heard migraines, or blah, 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 which could play into concussions.
Yeah.
Anywho.
Okay, where do you want to go? The rest of the lineup? You want to go?
I want to talk about the Boston Bruins a little bit, and so they're gonna throw Jeremy Swayman back at the Leafs tonight. Obviously,
if they're doing the switch up, then that's what they're doing.
Switch up. Swayman led the NHL this year in save percentage when tied. So he has a .930 when the score is tied in hockey games, and he played, over 40 games. That's a pretty good, solid number. You mentioned the start and all that. I think the thing that you liked about their game last game was patience and, sticking with it and not cheating, and all of a sudden they're going the other way. When you have a goalie who makes saves when the score is tied, and you get robbed a few times, that's going to be key too tonight. Is if you get robbed, if Swayman's good in these moments, can they continue to do the things, pull out, and be defensively smart that they need to do to stay with Boston?
Swayman, dating back to last year, has won 5 straight against the Leafs. 117 save percentage, 964 goals. Sorry, 964 save percentage, 1.17 save goals against, and 10.27 saves above expected through that time.
Wow.
So, bit of ownership.
Yeah, no kidding.
If Swayman finds a way to beat the Leafs tonight,
how do you?
That switcheroo is done.
So of the 5,
done.
Hope not.
No, it will. There's just not.
I'm with Kip on that.
Not a snowball's chance
Can't do it again.
that Montgomery would have the guts to go up 2-1 with Swayman and then stick to his regular season. Hey, everybody gets to be included. And everybody
lose
gets
by 1 to Allmark, who gives up one we didn't like.
That's peewee hockey, bud. That we're switching back and forth because that's the participation of our team.
But I disagree. I think he does it.
Oh,
it's all he's talked about all year. It's like
I think it's a fair point that he would, but
I think he would.
I don't think he can justify that.
It's okay to start. Like you gave it a chance,
and they loved him in the last game. They profusely they praised him.
Sam's right on this.
They praised him. He was great.
Now you want to go into Game 4 up 2-1, and then take another chance that Allmark loses again? And no.
Yeah.
No.
That's peewee stuff.
And you talked about how important it is for the Leafs to get off to this good start. Last 5 games, Swayman has played the Leafs. You know how many times they've scored in the first period on him? Yeah, it's 0. They haven't scored a single first period goal on this guy. So if you're looking for reasons to start this guy and you're Jim Montgomery, it's not hard to find him.
Okay, let's go to Sheldon on the matchups tonight at home, where he will get the last change.
Well, the atmosphere, I know it's going to be great. Like I talked about, be loud. I think people, are excited for this time of year, of course, and will welcome us home. In terms of the matchup stuff, I think, we'll see what the lineup looks like for us here tonight. But you look how it went on the road. I think the way the forward matchups went, we were pretty good with that. Pretty good with the way they worked out. I think both teams are sort of top six, bottom six. And you have to be smart about how you manage that and get outside of that. Obviously they really focused on Austin and his line with how they utilized their defense, and we'll be able to maybe manage that a little bit better at home here now and make it a little more difficult for them. At the same time, that line's been doing really well, and we got to manage the matchups accordingly so we're not chasing one to get something favorable over here and expose ourselves on the other side of it, especially maybe we can play without different people.
Playing without different people. Yeah.
I don't. This worries me. Like the overthink. It's something that we've always talked about with Sheldon, that like when he gets into these situations, he likes to coach hard, and he likes to switch things up. And like we talk about the lack of patience on the ice sometimes with the Leafs. I mean, that can be reflected behind the bench too. And him with last change and him like looking to galaxy brain this does concern me a little bit, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Is that fair or no?
I like his comment on not seeking out some matchup. Let's say you're trying to get your first line against their fourth line and then leaving yourself exposed on the other side. They don't score. Now the other guy's top line's up and you don't have your top guy. So
as far as I'm concerned, I look at the Boston Bruin lineup, and I know we're going to have a discussion on Marchand very soon here, but Pasternak's the superstar here.
Yeah.
And for the most part, Marner, Tavares, Matthew Nyes
Done pretty well.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we had this conversation the other day, and maybe it's affected their ability to maybe create a little bit more or have those cheat moments. But, like, he's been quiet. He got the one power play goal, but he's been quiet here. You're going to win the series if you keep this guy at bay.
Yeah.
It's that simple for me for the Boston Bruins here. And I get Marchand is that guy that can also stir it up, but you shut Pasternak down, you win the series.
Yeah, you make everyone else beat you. It's funny, going back to Marner and Matthews' rookie season, like the guy who scored the most against the Leafs, number 2 is Kucherov, has 20 goals on the Leafs, regular season and playoffs combined. Pasternak has 27.
Yeah. Oh, he owns
It's not even close.
Yeah.
It's just.
He's the number one league.
Thank you to Jason Murdoch in our stats department for some of this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, on Marchand, because, Sammy, you wanted to get something off your chest after game 2, and you've kind of let it slide. I said, Sammy, long series, bud. You'll get your chance. You'll get your licks on Brad Marchand.
Yeah. We want to play Sheldon Keefe talking about how you play against him, because it's a very good clip.
And then we'll come to Sammy for our Kippers clip on Marchand.
Yeah, just got to be smart. You got to recognize the moment, recognize the player and players that you're playing against. They're very good at making it very clear that there's been an infraction. So we've got to we got to manage that for sure.
I mean, the diving is brutal.
The diving.
He's a brute. The Boston Bruins are a storied organization who their last 2 captains, Zdeno Chara, all-time legend, never, ever going to take a dive ever. Patrice Bergeron, one of the classiest guys in the history of the league. And then they go to this guy who's crying all over the ice, diving all over the ice, turtling anytime anyone comes up to him. It's a bad look for them. And it's like, Montgomery's whining today in the media about the schedule. It's like, holy, the crying Bruins here. It's like, what's going on?
Okay.
I thought there was this big, bad organization. He's grabbed on his knees with a love tap from Bert.
Do I need to call you a wambulance?
Okay,
It's not a good look for them. That's all I'll say.
You brought it up, but I don't get either Montgomery crying about the schedule. It's like, get through tonight, buddy.
Yeah.
Get through tonight. You got lots of time here to cry on the extra day off between tonight and Saturday. I don't get that for 1 second why he even went there.
Do you want to lump this in with these two things?
Let's play that clip too.
Okay.
Montgomery.
So everyone knows the schedule is such that they play Wednesday night, then not till Saturday. So there's an extra day off in Toronto.
So let's play the clip. It's clip number 2.
The schedule is the schedule, but do you like that you've got days off between 3 and 4?
No. Like, I mean, I would have rather been here Thursday, Saturday, if I'm being honest, but, you know, I think we're spending more time in Toronto than Toronto's spending in Boston. We're the home team.
I think it's a fair observation.
Yeah, listen, you got to ask the question.
Oh, my God. Oh. He has to spend one extra night in the Four Seasons in this palatial room where he's watching tape anyway. Give me a break.
Listen, he did get asked the question, and he gave an honest answer.
Yeah.
Me, I would have said, like, come on. We're
talking about tonight.
Let's get through tonight.
It is like, just don't. You
You'll
don't need to go there.
You'll be fine.
The thing I'll say about Marchand, talking about the former captains of the Boston Bruins, is he has one thing in common with them that's important, and it's competitive as hell.
For sure.
And that diving and the whining is
comes out in a different way.
For sure. But
No
it's
question.
that same drive.
Yep.
And
It is part of his game to draw emotion and then get calls. And you know, the one that you're talking about was the Bertuzzi.
Embarrassing. Totally embarrassing.
It's not. Listen, he didn't
Kipper,
didn't need to go down.
If you were on the ice, bud,
Didn't need
what
to go
would you
down.
have been saying to him?
Didn't need to go down. That was a penalty. Him standing up.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a penalty, Sam.
I said as much.
That's
Definitely
a
penalty.
slash.
Stupid.
Any way you want to look at it. Did he feel like he needed to go down to completely sell it? Yeah, it was sold before you went down. So I get it, but it is part of his game to draw penalties like bunting we've seen in the past. Kadri's awfully good at it. It's
an art.
You know, at times it works for him, and there's other times when you got to go, I did a piss poor job selling that one.
And it's hard because this guy's watching on his TV from his couch, and he wants to punch him in the face. If you're in the game and you're close to him, to not give him that extra shot is a challenge, and that's why he's so good at what he does and makes him effective. I know I'm not saying it's like awesome and you should like it, but obviously he is very good at this.
Yeah.
Was the tweet about like Tyler Bertuzzi, we need to control our emotions, that he sees Marchand and throws a shovel at him from 2 feet away?
From a Leaf perspective, what a horrific decision between Lyubushkin and Bertuzzi there to give them a power play with 5 minutes to go.
There is a part of that play that I missed, and when I was hard on Lyubushkin for the way he reacted, Coyle comes right by Samsonov, slashes him straight in the helmet. There's a part there that I never saw it, and I got a million people tweeting me and DMing me about it.
He took a lick.
He slashed him in the helmet.
Dramatic explanation of the event.
You come across the goalie and hit him in the face. How do you expect the guy that's on the team to react? I give him a pass on that one.
No pass at that time of the game up a goal.
You got to suck it up, Sam. You got to. They were so. Coyle came back and engaged with Lyubushkin.
He tried to rip his chain.
Or they're down 5-on-3.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
And we're having a different conversation potentially on being down 2-0 in a must-win game 3.
Yeah.
That's the fine line we're talking about this time of year.
Yeah. I know. I think, in the heat of the battle, right after you've turned one up the middle and some guy slashes your goalie in the face, it's hard to be like, just be cool. Just be cool. It's hard.
Hard doesn't mean it can't be done.
I know. Yep. But Marchand doesn't need to dive like that. And the last time the Leafs played the Bruins, he spent more time lying on the ice crying than he did playing in the game. So we'll see what happens tonight.
Okay, yesterday we dived in about the Mitch Marner noise. It ain't going away. Should we go to Sheldon Keefe first on his top guys?
Sure.
And then we'll come out and talk about what's transpired in 24 hours since our yesterday's show.
Yeah.
Let's have a listen to Sheldon Keefe.
But what I like, not just about Mitch and that line, but even Austin, his line, their game in the first game and the second game, there's not a lot different there. Like they were very good in both games. The puck went in twice, so we had those the chances that Austin had, he rips off the bar, and then Max's rebound. We had those types of chances in game one as well. Maybe not as clean a breakaway as Austin had the other night, but Yarncroke was in alone, Tavares was in alone in game one. Like, these things sort of have happened, and will happen through the playoffs. And sometimes one line does it, another night another line's going to do it. But our team game has been really good, and none of our players here through games 1 or 2 have cheated the game and have gone outside of what we need them to do. And because of that, we've played the best defensive hockey we've played all season long.
Wow, that's a hell of a statement.
He's pumping him up.
Yeah. It's been good defensive hockey. Very.
I can't imagine, and this is part of what comes with being in this market, and it comes with some of the years past where there's been big moments where Marner and Matthews, don't get me wrong, have not come through. But, I mean, we saw the cover of the Toronto Sun, the Invisible Man. I can't imagine more pressure on an individual than the pressure on Mitch Marner going into tonight.
Yeah, and again, just to kind of, I'm not taking Mitch off the hook here. He needs to play better. And yes, he's going to have to produce at some point. Mm-hmm. But the narrative for me so early in the start of the playoffs, and the Toronto Sun cover where, correct me if I'm wrong, they said usual disappearance. Mm-hmm. And it's like 5 minutes ago, we were talking about all of them under a lot of scrutiny this time of year.
Yeah.
For good reason. Now, Austin has a terrific game 2. Mitch is pointless, and now he's great, and Mitch sucks. I don't get it. I don't get it. Two games in, you want to bury this guy.
That's the part. Like, you want to talk to me after they lose in 6 games to the Boston Bruins. You want to put this out. Okay, but it's the first home game after they got a split on the road in Boston.
So why? Why?
Because
Florida's fresh too, where I think Marner had no points in 6 of the last 8 playoff games or something. I think was included in that, and it's I think Florida had a lot of people on edge to get that narrative changed, so it doesn't feel like 2 games.
Wasn't Mitch the best player on the ice to even extend a 5th game against Florida?
He scored in that game.
Listen,
he's had some bad games. He's had some bad games in big spots that stick with people.
Austin
of
has,
course,
as Willie has.
We're not talking about those guys. We're talking about the guys on the front of the Sun today, right? He's in the crosshair, and he seems to take the brunt of it, whether it's fair or not.
Yeah.
He takes the brunt.
Yeah.
There was an article I read.
It's not fair.
The article I read today, basically talking about how these guys don't get their points, just 1 point here, 2 point there, all consistently throughout the playoffs. And the guys who have had big success, Marchessault last year wins the Conn Smythe. I think he had 2 assists 7 games into the playoffs last year. That was his point total. And then, so the point is, there's enough time. Playoffs are long. If the Leafs are good collectively and win as a team, Marner will be Marner. He'll have enough games to be Marner. It's just a matter of, can the team get him there to validate that stance?
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing, too, and Sheldon's already talked about it, they're trying a different look here. And I know I didn't joke around with you. I said, try to win a game 2-1. Mm-hmm. It's maybe they will. Maybe they will start 3-2 scores. Maybe they don't have to have those huge numbered point production games. Maybe it's a different look right now. Maybe they are in a shutdown mode, Tavares and Marner and Nyes. And maybe those opportunities aren't there like they were constantly when they had the go, go, go mentality and let's outscore our mistakes. They've learned. I don't know how the application goes moving forward, but they've learned you can't outscore your mistakes.
No, but it would feel more valid if when they were playing this go-go mentality you're talking about, they had games where they scored a bunch, like in last year's playoffs against Florida or whatever. And so if that's it and they're able to win doing this, that would be awesome. And I think people would be pretty cool with quiet numbers from the Stars, but they're just not built to not get numbers from them.
Trust me, if they lose this series, there's plenty of time for those covers, right? But not after game 2.
I think that's fair.
Maybe
I'm as
getting a
critical.
head start on the pack.
I'm as critical of Marner as anyone, but like, felt a little early.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Maybe just.
Buddy, that's what you call eating your own.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Hey, I think, sex sells, baby. Bleeds, it leads, I guess.
Okay, what are we going to do? Take a quick break? Come
let's
back
take a break with Gordo.
Gord Stellick, one of the favorites on Real Kyper and Bourne. We'll get his thoughts on Marner, plus so much more as we get ready for puck drop. Game 3 tonight. Hockey Night in Canada, Sportsnet. The place to be. Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee. Let's welcome in Gord Stellick, Toronto Maple Leaf analyst for Sportsnet 590 The Fan, former general manager of the Leafs. One of our favorites, here to help us tee up Game 3 at Scotiabank Arena. Gordo, are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm feeling good. I know we're supposed to be objective, but Leaf Nation, we're not. I'm feeling good. I'm ready.
Okay. But we've had you on in previous years. You felt good before this time of year. What's different tonight?
Well, I think people went seriously in debt listening to my 1-900 numbers from previous years. So I apologize when I selected the Leafs and it didn't happen. Okay, I just feel that was such a great statement game on Tuesday in so many ways, starting with Ilya Samsonov, starting with the big gun Austin Matthews, the way they played, on and on and on. I really do think this Boston Bruin team, the one that won 3 times in a few years, Zdeno Chara was a towering presence. He's gone. Bergeron's gone. Brad Marchand doesn't seem to be the same like he was. So it's no disrespect to the Bruins, but we thought 5 years ago the Leafs were going to supplant the Bruins as a better team in the Atlantic Division. They haven't done that in the standings, but I just have a feeling they're ripe for it. So I can't give you numbers. I can't give you stats. I'll leave that to Justin to do all that. I just have that good vibe for real this time.
So, we've got your opinion in the past on this year's Leafs versus past Leaf. I want to get your thoughts on this year's opponent versus past opponent. Going into tonight, Andrew Peeke and Matt Grzelcyk are out on the back end for the Boston Bruins. I believe JVR is in for Lauko out front. What are your thoughts on the Bruins in general compared to the previous Lightning? And I guess it's been Lightning a couple years in a row, but the other first rounders.
Well, and again, like last year, they hit the Florida Panthers just as they, hit their sweet spot. 2 years ago, the Tampa Bay Lightning had still been the 2-time defending Stanley Cup champions. So they had a tough draw by who they got eliminated against. And like I was saying earlier about this Boston Bruin team, the last 2 years, they were supposed to battle for a playoff spot to stay in. You thought 2 years ago, and to their credit, they came first overall, won the President's Trophy. But I just feel that kind of factor. And keep in mind, whenever they beat the Leafs, it was always in 7 games. And the Leafs had opportunities to win it. The one time, Game 6 on Easter Sunday when Morgan Riley gave them a 1-0 lead. So it's not like they came in and dominate them years gone by. But the fans' mantra, the fans' recollection is that's been the case. The Bruins simply have the Toronto Maple Leafs number. So I again, no disrespect, but I view this not as talented a team as last year's Florida Panthers, nor the Tampa Bay Lightning as the previous year. Yet, the Leafs lost to Montreal and Columbus when they were a far better team years before that.
We're talking to Sportsnet's 590 The Fans, Gord Stellick, teeing up Game 3. So, Gord, the narrative this season was we like Toronto starting on the road. Get a split, come home. Hey, worked out exactly like some were suggesting. Coming back home now, and you've been around this team for a very, very long time. What are the challenges when you get back home in front of this particular fan base?
So I don't get the challenges. I don't understand it. You play all season long for home ice advantage, and for whatever reason, the Maple Leafs have been a better team on the road this recent incarnation. I don't get it all. So that's the last piece that has to be put in place, is they have to make this a tough place to play, a place where they kick ass, that you don't want to come into Scotiabank Arena, that it's their turf, they got the crowd, it should all be a plus. I'm baffled why in the past they've had a much better road playoff record. So Kippy, all that you're saying makes sense. It should be it. It has not played out that way in the past, and that's what has to be different, and I believe will be this team in 2024.
Big topic of conversation has been Mitch Marner not, contributing as much as he typically does, but also Austin Matthews having a really good game too, and kind of putting them on their back for a win. What are your thoughts on the public conversation around these guys? We had one, and people reacted very strongly to it when their team got a win. Very passionate opinions on this whole discussion.
Okay, so the problem's been now 8 years running. This will be the 8th year. Now, the first year you throw away because that was just a novelty, but your big guns, whomever they are, Matthews, Marner, whomever, have to be big guns in the playoffs, and they've never done that. They've never been the difference makers in a playoff series. So to say the microscope's under them is very valid, as it should be. Criticism. After 2 games, Elias Pettersson in Vancouver, Alexander Ovechkin in Washington. His is a bit easier. He's 38 and really can't keep up in that. And Mitch Marner. Okay, Austin Matthews grabbed it in game number 2. What a game Austin Matthews had. And it just shows that when you take some not very smart penalties, other things maybe go awry. The difference maker was an elite player made the difference. So it's the challenges for Mitch Marner to do that as well. I've been bothered, Justin, in the past that, particularly when they lost to Columbus and Montreal, so much worry was to treat everyone with kid gloves. Yeah. Let's not be critical of Mitch or any of the Leafs, whatever it may be. Well, come on, you warrant criticism the way they lost some of those playoff series. It goes with the territory. It doesn't take away the elite players they are, the star players that they are. They just got to do it in the playoffs, which the Leafs have to do as a team to be like, say, Chicago was, or Tampa Bay was, or Pittsburgh was, or Colorado. The teams that finally get to the promised land or close to the promised land, and they have to do it as individuals. And the first 2 games, Mitch may have done a lot of things team-wise well, and that's fine. That's fine. But he is one of those difference makers, and at times he's got to make a difference.
Did you see the cover of the Toronto Sun today, where they airbrushed his face out and called him an invisible man as usual this time of year? Did you catch that? Do you think that was warranted, Gord?
Well, no, hey, is there still an element of tabloid journalism? I was there with the Leafs, and I never thought the covers are always extreme. Okay, they go crazy when they're winning, and and I'm not. It's harder to sell papers now, so you almost want to go more extreme. Do I think it's warranted? No, I don't. Excuse me. Do I agree with it? No. Is it a reality? Yeah. So what? You're bigger than that. Okay. If they win, they'll all of a sudden get their ass kissed in a cover of the Toronto Star tomorrow. So all I'm saying is we've known that's been it used to be way worse, Kyper. If you were in Toronto back in my day, you'd be getting screwed because I'd be deflecting all the criticism from me to guys like Kyper, whatever, the good-looking guys on the team getting all that. Hey, I remember a headline saying I was misquoted. Leafs a disgrace, dumb, whatever. And all I can say is that's the way. It's a reality. Why are we surprised? Why are we talking about it? Okay,
I know they won. They won.
Sun cover. What's that?
They said they won. We're talking about it.
It's 2 games in.
So what?
They're doing a different thing than analysis.
What are the fans saying, Kyper?
Yeah.
The fans are extreme. It's not 2 games. It's 2 playoff games in. After game 1, they're going to get swept in 4. After game 2, they're going to win in 5. Okay. After they lose tonight, they're going to lose whatever. But the fact
Welcome to Toronto.
Okay, it's a valid point, but is it taken? Is it made extreme? Is it blown out of context? Absolutely. But they've got a different agenda to sell papers. We've got a different agenda. When you're with a team, you've got to be bigger than that, and you know that.
There has been other positives throughout this all. John Tavares had a really nice game too. The captain didn't have maybe the greatest game one. A lot of guys didn't, but nice to see him play well, and then nice to see the goaltender bounce back in a spot where, boy, it could have all gone wrong. 2 guys that have kind of been question marks that came through, Gord.
Yeah, and by the way, there was a cover once that Curtis Joseph, okay? Like Joseph,
at least it's funny.
And think about how we remember his time in Toronto, outstanding goaltending. Justin, John Tavares is a guy that I think handles that kind of criticism he's had, and so much of it is affixed to his $11 million salary. And you're right, guys had a real solid 2 games. There's positives. Ilya Samsonov to bounce back like he did. And not just in the playoffs this season. I give him credit. I give the organization credit. Whatever they did for a reset seemed to work, and he came up big when was needed. The acquisitions that Treliving made in the summer, Domi finding his way, Bertuzzi finding his way, Edmondson being a solid kind of trade deadline pickup. just a lot of things. And that's maybe, Kippy, when you asked me the first question, why I have a good feeling about it, because the depth pieces really hadn't been there in years gone by. And a lot of these things are starting to bear fruit and provide more depth on top. So there were some positives in game one when you broke it down later on, but there were a lot in game two, and it's multiple.
Any concerns at all with the discipline? We know how it cost them in game one. It could have cost them, Gord, in game two. It didn't. But where do you see that storyline moving forward?
Oh, absolutely concerned, Kippy. I mean, that's when you end up beating yourself. I mean, penalties would be part of a game. Unnecessary penalties, no. And again, you say, oh, geez, you get caught up in the heat of the game, and it's a kind of a blow to stick up for a teammate. Well, it could be a very costly 2 minutes. Guys like Wayne Simmons and Kyle Clifford, they both took unfortunate, untimely penalties. And Simmons in particular had been playing really well. It was the Tampa Bay series. And that's exactly what you don't want to happen, particularly if you're a fourth line guy. I know these guys aren't fourth line guys, but hey, Austin Matthews, you want him in the penalty box having a power play goal against like he did on Saturday, which was out of character, or the dominant player in the game staying out of the penalty box like he was in game number 2. That is a concern, because that is one that will kill you if you continue to take unwarranted penalties. That is a fact.
So on the back end, a guy who's played a ton for the Leafs the last few years, and TJ Brodie is still out. How do you feel about Liljegren, Lyubushkin, these guys staying in over TJ Brodie, who averages over 20 minutes of ice per game for the Leafs?
Well, I mean, you got to read the way things are going. And, it's funny. Last year it was Justin Hall that had a real tough time around the playoffs and that. And Detroit signed him, and, we know what's happened there. Mm-hmm. I love the TJ Brodie signing when it happened. I've liked the way he's played by and large, but he's had kind of an indifferent year from my assessment. And obviously mine's not what counts. It's what the coaches want to look at and make those decisions. So they added some depth in who they acquired. Now you look at the Washington Capitals, are down to 5D. Boston lost 2D. So you're hoping to go deep. And if you're going to go deep, that means you need like 7, 8, maybe even 9 defensemen, because defensemen are prone to injury, especially in the playoffs. So that means the TJ Brodies of the world or others very well could get a chance to play as well. But hey, you know what? The Sheldon Keefe and the coaches, they got to live or die by these decisions, and I'm cool with it.
Got to ask you your thoughts on the Willie Nylander mystery. You've been around a long time, Gord. We've seen some strange things this time of year, but this one leaves a different feeling for everybody moving forward, trying to guess what the heck's going on. What are your thoughts?
Well, and Kippy, this isn't up there with the Connor Bedard, Corey Perry thing, but by letting something linger, people have started reading more things. So before Saturday's game, it's a disciplinary thing. It's a lot of things. And, when you choose not to get ahead of the story, you open up that kind of speculation. So I'm very curious at the end. I know I had a doctor friend who just kind of speculated, not knowing nothing, but say it's something like he had an emergency appendectomy on Thursday, hypothetically. And that would explain this kind of thing, because now the other one is, did he play game number 82? And he shouldn't have played game number 82 because he woke up the day after game number 82. He played every game, and he's not ready to play game 1 in the playoffs. I mean, that doesn't jive in the planning for the playoffs. So, I don't know if that's why they're keeping quiet. I don't know. But after the Vancouver game last night, they lost. Rick Tocchet said, yeah, Demko's out week to week. Myers had the flu, and you move on. So hopefully, we get some clarity at some point. I expect we will. Hopefully you get a healthy Willie Nylander back in the lineup. If that's tonight, that would be great. But I'm really, this has been a baffling one. And again, people are big fans. They're curious. So you can say, unwarranted speculation. No, this is human nature, because it's just a very strange, unusual situation.
Gord, last one for me. Just your thoughts on Matthew Knies, who got absolutely trucked 3 times last game. And he's a big guy and a good player. But, have you seen this before, where a guy kind of repeatedly puts himself in these tough spots and finds a way out of it eventually?
Well, he got hurt that way last year, right?
Yeah.
And that was the kind of thing I was really pleased with, his jumping into the NHL. I really like Matthew Knies.
Yeah.
Maybe in some ways you look at Rempe with the New York Rangers, a concern about him in fighting. not about hitting. In hitting, you're more concerned about the other guys that he hits. But if he has to take on a Tom Wilson or someone one, I know he's fought a lot of heavyweights, but does he know how to fight properly? Okay. In the case of Nice, that's particularly coming from the NCAA to a very physical thing like NHL Stanley Cup playoffs against a physical team like the Boston Bruins and the teams last year. Yeah, you got to learn that because you're going to get hurt. You are. I love his gumption. I love his compete. Been a positive ad, but I do have that concern for sure, Justin.
Got a score for us, Gordo, tonight?
Tonight, yeah, 4-2 Toronto. And you can take it to the bank, but if you listen to me other years, you have no money in the bank. So
All right, Gordo. Great stuff as always. That Stellicktricity just went from our show. It's going to seep right into puck drop, buddy.
Well, I hope that's the case, guys. And yeah, we'll talk soon. We'll see you again tomorrow. We'll see what the newspaper headlines are tomorrow. Can't wait.
Thanks, Gordo.
Gord Stellick, everybody.
You know, he's right. They won. We talked about it so much.
What?
The headline.
Oh,
where they won.
Yeah.
You said it. They
got all the attention.
Crap.
I think he makes a real valid point, especially in this town. If you don't find ways, and you don't have to come clean on what's going on with Willie, but you gotta find ways to calm that down, and you're in control of that.
Why?
No, I agree. Why? Like, is any other, are the Bruins, if Pasture's banged up, are they going to be telling you?
But it's not like that. This town, it runs differently than any other town.
You could see if we were in the locker room and you and I are running the team, you go, let it run wild, wouldn't you? You'd say, what do we care?
Yeah.
We know what's going on.
Listen,
he's fine.
If you feel like your team's okay with it and can shut that stuff out,
but if Willie's getting killed, maybe like if people are writing headlines about him about what a terrible guy because he was out, doing something terrible.
Yeah.
Then maybe you'd say
some of that is happening.
What?
On social media.
Well,
people are
it
saying that
was at first. Yeah. Like after he missed game one, speculation was out of control. It was running wild. Like, I mean, I got the idiots in my group chats being like, did he get disciplined? What happened? And it's like, it was out of control.
Yeah.
Then he misses game two, and I think that quieted down big time. And
now
if
that
he
may have been the most absurd theory I heard along the way. You didn't play well in game 82. You're
that backtrack that Sam McKee pulled up on Twitter, that's the one that did it.
But where does the story go if they lose tonight or if they lose badly tonight? Then you're just pouring gasoline all over it to get revisited.
With him or without him in the lineup?
What do you mean? If he
doesn't play?
Yeah, if he doesn't play, then yeah, it's gonna be.
You guys think he'll play?
No.
I mean, you know things more than me, Kyper, and you pretend to not know things, but you do know things. So you saying that you don't think he'll play, I tend to think he won't, but I do have a little feeling that he may. I do have a little feeling that he may.
Listen, I hope you're right.
Me too.
I hope he comes to the rink and he goes,
Can you give me a solid 12? Solid 12 or 13. Play power play, get a couple of shifts up with the big boys.
That's never happened in the history of the NHL, where a star player dresses and they use them for
I will say this, though.
You're
like, about that. Once again,
special teams.
We're reminded what we love about the first round.
The passion.
It's a man's game out there, man. They're hitting hard.
That's a great point. Like, you might be a little
They're
afraid.
hitting hard.
You watch that Florida-Tampa game?
Even if he got 12 minutes, can he avoid some of the things that we're seeing out there?
And if he does, if it is something to do, like concussion.
If you think it's back, you're targeting
concussion,
him.
Like, boy, he'd be going off the ice in a hurry.
Watching that Florida-Tampa game last night, like, if you want to get ahead of yourself as a Leafs or Bruins fan, it's like, well, Bennett's hurt. Whoa, Forsling's limping off.
Yes.
Torelli's going to the room. Like,
plenty to talk about in the next hour, including that series and that goaltending battle between Vass and goalie Bob.
Oh, my God.
That one was legendary last night.
What a game. What a save.
Incredible. And it's still just getting started here. So don't go away in the next hour. Satiar Shah in Vancouver will join us and give us Vancouver's vibe with no Demko.
Oh, it's instant Leafs vibe.
And more.
Panic.
So don't you move. Nobody goes anywhere until puck drop on the Real Kyper and Bourne Show. We're back. Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee for our national edition of the Real Kyper and Bourne Show. We are live on Sportsnet 650 in Vancouver, and Sportsnet 960 in Calgary. This hour of Real Kyper and Bourne brought to you by Bet365. All right, boys. So, what the heck happened to our Canadian teams last night? Did anyone play in the CFL last night and lose too, or just
goalies,
hockey and baseball?
Can I tell you my biggest worry out of last night? It's about the Jets.
Why is that?
I thought Avalanche looked pretty good.
Well, the more concerning part of that is Georgiev kind of pulled it together.
Yeah, he was just fine.
Yeah.
And I just thought that they double shifted McKinnon and McCarr and everything the second period. Just a tidal wave.
Yeah.
It's just a
How long
tidal
do they
wave.
do that for? Every game and they double shift those guys?
Probably.
Yeah.
As far as the Vancouver Canucks are concerned, major storyline, obviously. Satiar Shah, host of Canucks Central and Canucks game host on Sportsnet, will join us in a few minutes. But at least Hellebuck's still there. We'll get into it a little later on the, I don't know, I lost count, 11 goals in 2 games?
6 plus 5 is 11. Carry them
on Hellebuck. We'll get into that.
I only have 10 fingers, boys.
But at least the Jets still have them.
That's true.
Yeah.
Vancouver Canuck fans cannot say the same about Demko.
Yeah.
And the overall feeling of learning this yesterday, and then the momentum that was lost from game 1, or no, it wasn't lost. It was lost at some point during the game. And I don't even know if there was momentum lost during the game last night when Vancouver throws the kitchen sink at Nashville.
All over him.
But can't score.
I thought they looked excellent last night for long stretches of that game.
I mean, boy, it's one of those things Saros is on Nashville. You can't say, wow, they just lucked out with a goaltending performance. That is, let me check, in line with goaltending performances they always get. Yeah. So that's a tough guy to beat, and they need saves too.
I want to give Nashville a lot of credit because I think they didn't slide into the playoffs here. They earned it. There's no question. And they're battlers. And yes, it takes bravery to stand and block a shot, but it's not really fun hockey to watch 5 goalies out on the ice. I found it very frustrating.
We gave them
it's a frustrating look.
We gave them credit, but they are terrible spectating. I mean, just as a hockey perspective.
It's like a shooting gallery.
Do you want to quickly, before we get to Sat, hear what Andrew Burnett had to say about the block shots and stuff?
Sure.
Because if you got that clip for us there, Derek, it's Burnett clip 1.
I think it was 1 in the second period. And I thought the third period we were committed to the pain. And I think something that maybe game 1 we learned from a little bit. Maybe weren't quite as committed to the pain. I thought in tonight with the block shots and the things that we did, sacrificing our body, so we learned, and we're still growing. We're not where we want to be, but we're getting better, and today was a good step.
Committed to the pain, baby.
Okay, let's welcome in.
Watching every Leaf game for the last 10 years.
We'll welcome in Sat Shah, host of Canucks Central. And Sat, it was like watching a 45-minute power play last night at times. At least that's what it felt like to me.
Yeah, that's really what it was. I mean, especially that third period. I will say, though, the first period, the Canucks were utterly dominant. Same thing with the third. But I do think in the whole narrative of how this game unfolded and how the Canucks were dominant, the second period, I thought the Predators were the better team. They created more quality looks. They started taking away the run of play from Vancouver. They had a couple penalties go against Van, and then they took over after that period. So actually, I think in the second, I'm not sure it's getting talked about enough. As much as they were under siege, when they took the 3-0 lead, I thought the Preds were the better team in the second period. Now, they hung on for dear life in the third, and Saros made a number of big saves. And it felt like, a goal or 2 was maybe imminent from Vancouver. But I don't know if enough is being made about how good the Preds were in that second period to take full control of that game from Vancouver.
The Preds are good. They bring it, man. They play fast and they play responsible, and that makes it a challenge to beat any hockey team. Tell us about, we're going to have a vibes check with Vancouver in general. Like last night, the chant of "Let's go, Casey," and then the puck gets deflected into the net was such like a,
let's go.
We're trying for this guy, but it's hard. Where are things at today after a loss?
I will say, so post-game, Lena on our station, who does producing work, she was collecting sound from fans after the game. And a lot of fans were super excited still. Like, hey, listen, we still feel good about where the team's at. If they play that way, they should be able to win the series still. So for a market that can be, let's say, very neurotic at the best of times and always kind of looking for something to go wrong. And there was a lot of trepidation when the Demko injury news came through. But I got to say, I think Canucks fans as a whole, especially at the rink last night and after the game, they're still pretty positive. So the vibes are still good. I wonder what those vibes look like if things don't go their way, say, the next 2 games in Nashville. But I will say, I was pretty impressed, despite the Canucks losing last night and, not going their way. A lot of fans are still showing some enthusiasm, showing a lot of excitement. And, I felt bad for Casey Smith because the thing going through my mind was, man, this chant is going through. Like, here's Canucks fans. They're giving this guy their support. They're putting aside the Demko injury. They're trying to be positive. This is just such a fantastic vibe. And then literally, a few seconds later, the puck goes in on him. A bit of an unfortunate break. But I do think the entire fan base was trying to put on a brave face before the game, during the game, and after the game last night. And we'll see how long that kind of lasts if the Canucks can't get back to winning.
Was there some hope that this could be a real short Demko situation? And then we heard Rick Tocchet in his post-game comments utter the words week. Didn't he use week to week?
Week to week.
So did that suck the life out of a few people, you think?
Well, a little bit, but I do think you're right. I do think that created a bit more trepidation because I think fans were kind of hoping that, hey, there's been a lot of reporting and it's not looking very good for Demko, but maybe when Tocchet speaks, it will be a bit more optimistic. Because during the morning, he said day to day. Then by the evening, he said week to week. And when asked by one of the reporters that if this means Demko's done for the series and likely not going to come back, he answered by saying yes, and then continued on to answer another question. So it became very clear that Demko's done for this series. And I do think some of the other stuff out there, and I know Elliot's mentioned it too, that the status isn't quite clear on the second round. I've heard a lot of conflicting things. I've heard that maybe he'll be back the second round. Others have told me maybe he won't be back to the conference final. Now, that obviously means the Canucks have to get through Nashville, have to maybe get through the next round as well. But as we sit here today, it doesn't look to be overly optimistic on the outlook. And I've seen a lot of fans point to that and say, hey, like if they're not going to have Demko, it's one thing to get past Nashville. How are you going to get past, say, Edmonton if they do beat LA, or even LA if the goaltending is not going to be a big key for you? And that's going to be the big question. I know that Demko's the type of guy that really works hard, and he has beaten ETAs in the past, and he will do everything humanly possible to get himself back. So it wouldn't shock me if the Canucks do get past Nashville, that maybe you see him in the second round. But even the second round right now kind of seems like a hopeful ETA for his arrival in the playoffs again.
Boy, well, that's not great. But if there is going to be a second round, and we believe there are here in Canada, good team, Vancouver Canucks, you're going to need a star player to play well. Elias Pettersson is starting to take a little bit of heat. Hasn't gone exactly his way through 2 games. Here in Toronto, we're doing our own fiasco where you're mean to a very good player because they don't score for 2 games. How are things going in Vancouver on the Pettersson front?
Well, now he's the guy that's taking the brunt of the criticism. And I mean, a lot of fans that even call themselves, Pettersson backers and that are very critical of his game right now. And even he himself was very critical of how he played. And Talk had mentioned that he has to get through it as well. But I do think there has been a bit of a tide turn around Pettersson. It all started before he signed his contract because he was non-committal for a long time. The team talked about, and you guys know too, with Rutherford not knowing where Pettersson stood, and he mentioned that to the media a little bit, that they wanted to get him signed. So that kind of started a bit of trepidation from fans wondering, hey, is this guy even going to sign here? Does he want to be a Canuck? He wants $12 million plus. Then he signs the contract, and since then, his game hasn't really been at the top level you expect him to be at. And because of that, there has been some buyer remorse from a lot of fans, and even people mentioning now, is he even a superstar? Is he even worth the money or not? And my take on it is he's 25 years old. He had a 102-point season as a 24-year-old. He had 89 points this year. Yeah, he can be better, but he's a star-level player. And if they produce like that, they are going to get paid. But last night, the biggest issue I found for his game was defensively. On that first goal, Hughes falls down, it creates a turnover, but then Sissons and Pettersson are going for the same puck along the near wall, and Pettersson has a line on it, but kind of slows up and doesn't go hard to the board to get the puck. And Pavillia beats him to it, and that's Sissons. And then Pavillia beats Pettersson to the middle of the ice to tip that puck in. So the first goal happens, not great on Pettersson. The third goal happens, Pettersson gives the puck away at the blue line, and then he gets beat by Sissons going towards the net. Now he ends up knocking the puck himself. That 2 spots, 2 goals where you want to say he was directly at fault for the first one, maybe, the second one perhaps. And then he had a wide open net that he missed on. So if you look at that game from Pettersson and say, if he scored a goal, and if he doesn't make those 2 mistakes, do the Canucks maybe win that game? Do we go to overtime? Do we look at a game that's a lot different in the third period? So he was the guy that ended up getting the brunt of the criticism. And a lot of fans are really frustrated where his game's at. And some people now think his game is never going to go back to what it used to be a few years ago, or even last year or the first half of this season. And into that, I say he'll be fine at some point. The question is, can he find his game fast enough in the playoffs? And you guys know, I mean, Kyper, you played with players too. You can believe in a player's potential long-term. The question is, can he find that gear in the moment? And can that be good enough in the playoffs? And right now, that's the question we don't have answers to. And I do think a lot of fans are concerned that he's not going to be able to find that gear in this playoff.
We're talking to Satiar Shah, hockey host for the Canucks Central show on Sportsnet. Does Pettersson Sat have the personality to handle the scrutiny? Is he the type of guy that it can roll off his back and come up with a big game, or is he a little more sensitive?
Well, I do think he is a little sensitive. I think he's also admitted to that in the past. Now, he worked through something similar a few years back where he had a really tough start to the season, and he was reading all the press clippings, and he spoke to the media about it, that, hey, I've learned how to handle and navigate these things. I can't get too worried about what people say and just focus on myself. And right now, I wonder if he's kind of back into that same, headspace again. The thing I would always say about Pettersson, as much as, he's not always the most open with the media, he can push back a little bit and can be a bit of a recluse. I don't think he would have signed and stayed in Vancouver if he was really worried about the spotlight. He was really worried about being under scrutiny. Like, he knows what it's like in this market if you don't pull your weight and play to the level that you need to play at. So I think he can handle it. The question is, has he matured enough to be able to handle it in the moment and get through it within a couple of days? And does he have that fortitude, the mental fortitude within a series to bounce back from a bad game or two? And those are types of things that we don't quite know yet. I think he's going to be fine. But right now, we've been looking at his game, and when you don't see the signs be there in terms of confidence, the question just becomes, is he going to be able to find that in the moment in this playoff, especially against this national team? And they're going to need him. If the Canucks are going to overcome Demko's injury, if they're going to get more shots on goal and perhaps break through some of these blocked shots, they're going to need Elias Pettersson to pick some corners. And right now, that's not happening for him.
So, Sat, in other markets, everyone's aware of this Demko story. Everyone's aware of a guy like Pettersson. What are some of the other storylines with the Canucks? Maybe some of the underlying stuff the guys that, like yourself who watch it really close are keeping an eye on in terms of the Canucks finding their way past the Predators?
Defensively, they've been absolutely stout. They're D-men, and they've been getting a lot of criticism over the past few years for the defense. They've really rebuilt it. They did miss Tyler Myers last night. I thought Noah Juleson came in and played well. And me saying missing Tyler Myers is something that wasn't really uttered much the past 4 or 5 years,
right.
But this year has really turned his game around. But also, the thing is, the way Zadorov's come in and played, the way Ian Cole has found his game, Soucy's been terrific. We all know how good Hughes and Veronica have been as a pair, but those next 4 defensemen, they're all 6'4" or taller, right? I mean, Zadorov and Myers are 2 of the biggest defensemen in the league. Ian Cole's an absolute unit. And then, you have a guy like Carson Soucy who has size, great defensive ability, great stick. His gap control is fantastic. They're really hard to wade through. You see how hard it is for Nashville to get through that defense. They punish guys along the wall. The issue with that defense at times has been there's variance in Zadorov and Myers' game where you see Zadorov these first 2 games, he's probably been an 8 or a 9 out of 10 in his performance, but he will have a 3 or a 4 at times. And that's what makes it a bit complicated with him, where sometimes you feel like, man, this guy should be a $5 or $6 million defenseman, but he doesn't string them together as consistently. And Myers is kind of similar as well. But the last couple of games, these first 2 games, down the stretcher, ever since they also acquired Elias Lindholm, this team has been really hard to break down, especially down the middle, too, when they have Miller, Pettersson, and Lindholm. All those guys, I know Pettersson's skinny, but Lindholm is 6'1", 200 pounds. JT's 6'1" and 220 pounds. Pettersson's 6'2". Then you have those trees on the back end. Teddy Blueger as a 4th-line center. Defensively, they've been an outstanding team. But what's kind of ironic is that offensive firepower they had for the first half of the season has really dried up.
There's only one line I think that can hurt the Vancouver Canucks, and that's O'Reilly, Forsberg, and Nyquist. And maybe a new appreciation for that line being maybe one of the better lines in the National Hockey League, but nobody ever knew because they play in Nashville.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Nyquist has been terrific. I mean, talk about the fountain of youth this guy's has found. He's been working out with Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin or something the last couple of years because he was been incredible this year. And you see his work on the power play as well. I don't think he gets talked about enough. On the power play, of course, you got Ryan O'Reilly, Romy Josi, and Philip Forsberg. But Nyquist, the way he ties things together, the way he hunts pucks down, he's really good at playing the point as well, keeping the puck at the blue line. He walks the line for a forward really well, too. I think he's played off Josi well. He does a lot of different things. I think Nyquist has been really underrated with how he's played this year. And you really watch him on the forecheck. His speed looks to be back. But your guys are right. I mean, that's a line that probably doesn't get enough credit. And I think one guy that probably isn't being talked about enough is Gustav Nyquist and how much of an X factor he's been in this series already.
Mm-hmm. So tell us about the coach there, Rick Tocchet, and the job he's done with his team. Saw his interview. Colby Armstrong did a great bit with him and Quinn Hughes, which was really, really well done. Check that out it's on sportsnet.ca. Your thoughts on where he has his team positioned, his messaging, and has it changed over the course of the season?
It has, I think, and it's something that I was really impressed by. So towards the end of the season, he was really on the guys. Like he was really like, hey, you guys can't expect to run into the playoffs and just up your game. You have to be trending in the right direction. He was really nitpicking their game and pushing them to be a lot better. As soon as the playoffs began, though, he completely changed. He's like, we have a good team. We know what we have to do. It's about us building the team up now. We have to build in on our confidence. And he's been very encouraging, even after last night's game. And people were wanting blood on Elias Pettersson. And he was said, instead of saying, yeah, he struggled, he needs to be better, it was, this is great for the kid. It's experience for him. He's going to get through it. He'll be a lot better. His overall demeanor has become really positive once the postseason began. And I think that's an encouraging way to go about things with a team that doesn't have a ton of playoff experience. And instead of putting the seed of doubt in their heads and be like, if you guys don't find your game, you're going to lose. And instead of, really creating this, this nightmare scenario for the team if they don't play their game, he's been very positive about what they need to do and the outlook he has for the team. And I think that shows a lot of maturity and emotional understanding of where players are at. And those are the types of things I look for sometimes because I always cringe when I see a head coach heading into a big game or a playoff game, almost put too much on the guys. Then you almost plant the seed of doubt on the guys. And in the regular season, it's one thing. In the playoffs, it's all about confidence. So I've been really impressed with his overall demeanor. Now we'll see what happens if they lose another game or, they're in a tough spot in the series. But so far, there's been a real change in his messaging the past 4 or 5 days.
So just prior to coming on our show, we had a brief conversation on Winnipeg and Colorado. And I know Demko didn't play last night, but what do you think the narrative would have been in Vancouver if he gave up 11 goals in the first 2 games at home like Hellebuck did in Winnipeg?
Honestly, people would be calling for Casey DeSmith to get a start, maybe, or maybe even Arthur Shalov, third string goalie, to come up. I mean, because even earlier this season, when Demko had this incredible start to the campaign, right, he was unbelievable. Then DeSmith went undefeated in his first 5 or 6 games, and there were people wondering if DeSmith should start more games, and maybe DeSmith should be the starting goalie, and maybe you don't need a goalie like that for Demko. Now, Vancouver's always had a precarious relationship with goaltenders. It goes back a very long time, and there was a love-hate relationship with Luongo, of course, and we all know the days with Kluche, and then you go through everything else that's kind of happened, and it can be fickle when it comes to goaltending. It's very much what have you done for me lately, but I do think the market we're in here in Vancouver would take the goalie getting ventilated like the way Hellebuck did the first 2 games far differently than they're taking it in Winnipeg right now.
So going into game 3 here, let's say the Canucks find their way through this series. How do you feel about the Canucks as a team that has a legitimate chance to go on a deeper push of sorts? Because they really feel like one of Canada's stronger hopes here.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, a lot of it comes down to Demko, right? Like, can they get him back at some
He's
point,
that important.
right? Because I think he really is. I mean, and I thought DeSmith was fine last night, but you still see he's not the same, and I think the confidence it gives, I mean, you guys know, you have one of the top netminders backing you, you're going to feel a lot better about how you go about things every game. And when you have somebody else, and to a man, they always talk about they believe in DeSmith, they believe in their overall team game. But I don't know if you have the same swagger if you don't have them. And then not to mention the goals above expected that you can get saved by Thatcher Demko that I don't think that Casey DeSmith can really replicate and hasn't really shown he can replicate. So a lot of it comes down to that. But I do think, going back to what I mentioned about the defense, the depth down the middle, if their guys can get going offensively, I still think this can be a really dangerous team, but they really can't afford to miss any of the top guys. when we talked about this at the deadline, guys, I was shocked the Canucks weren't able to add somebody else at the deadline. They were really trying to add a forward. It's clear they're top 6 forward short. So it's like, I don't think they can really handle a big injury to one of our top players. That really puts them in the top spot. But if they get Demko healthy, I do see a pathway if they get past Nashville that they can do a little bit of damage. But the margin of error is so thin when it comes to being healthy.
Sat, before we let you go, just your thoughts on Dakota Joshua. And he had a really good season, and yet he just seems to have elevated into the playoffs. And just overall, what you've seen out of his season so far.
What an incredible story. And to be honest, guys, when this season began, I had some questions because he was one of the guys who showed up to camp, not out of shape by any means, but the coach mentioned that, hey, we challenged our guys to show up in incredible shape, and he didn't meet the very high standard we set. He had a healthy scratch earlier this season. He looked off the pace in the preseason early in the year. He looked off the pace, and I kind of wondered, did he ruin an opportunity for himself coming off a year where he scored, 12 goals, 11 goals. He has size, has physicality. There aren't enough guys like that around the NHL. If he would have put together 2 decent seasons back to back, he could have earned himself a nice payday. And for a guy who's really toiled in the minors and hasn't found it until he's 26, 27 years old, I thought this could have been a huge missed opportunity for him. But what a testament to his work ethic and perseverance during the season to get himself into shape, earning the respect and confidence of the coach yet again. And just his overall game has gotten a lot better. There aren't enough guys like this around the National Hockey League. Guys that can score almost 20 goals, have physicality, they can play a skill game, they can win along the boards, aren't afraid to drop the gloves. But he's more than a one-dimensional 5-on-5 player. He's become one of their best penalty killers. And last night, for instance, on the PK, 3 or 4 clears, he was completely the reason why it happened. He's really good at reading the play. He's showing a lot of chops outside of just being this physical guy that can pot a few goals. And I wonder if he keeps doing what he's done so far in the playoffs, he might price himself out of Vancouver. I know the Canucks want to keep him, but you guys know when it comes to finding guys that have some size, that can have a little pop in their game, what's the free agent market going to look like for him? And there's no better stage to showcase yourself in the playoffs. And I wonder if he's setting himself up for a massive payday once July comes around.
Game 3 Friday. Can't wait. Hey, Sat, great stuff, man. Really appreciate you coming on the show and giving us some excellent feedback on what we saw last night out of the Vancouver Canucks. We'll talk to you soon, okay?
Thanks, guys. Always appreciate, love watching your show. So
thanks, man.
Again soon.
Thanks, Sat. Appreciate it, bud.
All
right, Sat Shah.
All right.
A great job on Vancouver Central.
Yep.
Canucks Central.
Feel bad for it. It's just the Band-Aid goalie is the painful one, where it's like he's so good.
Yeah.
And he makes you a true contender. But a lot of times he's not there.
It's also so hard to know, like with a backup goaltender, where the great goalie would have made an exceptional save.
Yeah.
Like the first one is kind of weird, right? The weird tip that goes in during the Let's Go Casey chant. But like Forsberg dunks on him.
Yeah, it was a poster.
In a big way.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're not supposed to stop Forsberg from 2 feet away from the net. But maybe he would have.
Poke check, maybe.
Yeah.
There is nothing like a psychological hit on you when your number one goalie goes down.
Absolutely.
Right? I don't even think it compares to
doesn't matter what level
a
of hockey
star
it is.
centerman or a star D-man. You still think you can kind of piecemeal this thing, but your star goalie goes down, you're like, oh, God.
You just plays, you're like kind of cheating to the middle to make sure you don't get beat.
You're not playing the same game. You're not playing free.
And you know that.
Yeah.
And you know that this guy will find a way to make the save and cover my ass, and we're still in the hockey game.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what the vibe was watching that first goal go in. And it was a hell of a redirect.
Yeah.
Right? It was
very
Very
but I mean,
good.
it's a tip from the middle of the high slot where the goalie's just not in
Listen,
the net.
but,
That's
and they're chanting his name, and it's like right in the middle of the chant, you're like,
I felt for him. Like, he's a good goalie. He's had a decent year. That was a tough moment.
That sucks.
Anyway.
That sucks.
all right. We want to get a thought from Rick Bowness on last night's, or you want to go to break?
Let's do game time.
Okay, we'll do game time.
And then we'll go to break, and then we'll come back and hit on all that stuff.
Love it.
All right, it's game time, presented by Bet365. Visit the app, latest odds, and find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 19 plus, Ontario only. Please play responsibly. Obviously, 3 games tonight. The one that kind of catches my eye here for the number is Vegas and Dallas. Vegas is plus 135 tonight on the road in Dallas. Bet365 clearly thinks that Dallas needs this one really bad, and they're going to get the absolute A effort. But after watching that Golden Knights team and seeing them full bore, getting them at a plus 135 number, if you're a gambling man, seems like something that's pretty tantalizing to me.
But yeah, you're right. Like Dallas goes down 2 and then goes to Vegas. That's a hard spot. Like, full DeBoer is what you're going to get. You're going to get the best out of the Dallas Stars tonight.
Yeah, there's a real sense for Dallas after that game going, that's not an 8th seed team.
No. But they need to get over that fast.
Yes, they do.
And be like, this is the conference final.
Yes.
Because that's a good hockey.
Correct. And I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, too, you got to just factor in Peter DeBoer. And remember, he was the coach there that it was an ugly breakup.
Oh, yeah.
Like, this is a very emotional series for Pete DeBoer. And we haven't got that sense yet. He's saying all the right things. He's doing all the right things.
I mean, he alluded to it after game 1, being like, wow, yeah, hadn't seen that before. Like like we played the clip. He already was kind of alluding to the elephant in the room with the Golden Knights.
Yeah.
But, and another way too early check-in on the Conn Smythe Trophy.
Yep.
Connor McDavid is a massive favorite, plus 750.
Yeah.
And the next closest is plus 1600. Artemi Panarin is the next closest. Shesterkin, Aho, Anderson is up there 18-1. So they're really liking they're favoring obviously the Rangers and the Canes in the East.
Yeah.
And they think McDavid. I mean, when you get 5 helpers in the first game of the playoffs.
I think Gretzky's best year in playoffs, he had 30 assists. And I was like, McDavid could do that in 6 games.
But but right? You got to make sure that you're still playing. Like, you can put all the assists all you want. You can't stop after the second round.
No.
Right?
No, and it's got to be a complete game. But he can do that.
You can put your money down right now, but you better make sure they get to a Stanley Cup final. And I mean, he's the type of guy that could win it losing in a Stanley Cup final.
I might actually, that's a pretty tempting number.
And
plus 650. For sure he can.
Yes.
If he has 40
But he's got to get there.
And if you want one for way down the list, guy that's super clutch, scored his 5th career overtime winner last night, Carter Verhaeghe, plus he's a 50-1 shot. So they think they're going to go deep.
Send me about how the Leafs lost him.
Okay, they traded him. Do you want to hear the trade?
Yeah.
I got to find the...
Okay, first of all, I know we're going to talk more Florida soon in Tampa, but what a set of hands on the overtime goal.
Nasty.
Yeah.
Tight, and then to be able to corral the puck and put it upstairs was a thing of beauty.
So he was traded from the Leafs with Taylor Beck, Christopher Gibson, Matt Finn, and Thomas Nielsen for Michael Grabner.
But
that was like that Lou wanted to get rid of all the contracts.
Nobody thought he could skate.
That's
what
back then.
But I have a hard time killing the Leafs for it because Tampa literally let him go too.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just the Leafs that quit on him.
Agents said no to him.
Really?
Agents who watched him. Was he in the OHL?
Yeah. Played for I believe the Ice Dogs.
Ice Dogs.
Yeah.
Niagara.
Yeah.
Agents passed on him.
It's crazy. And
well,
he's just
things have
clutch.
worked out pretty well for him.
And that's just such a sweet move, like you said. All right. That was Game Time, presented by Bet365. Visit the app for latest odds and find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 19 plus. Ontario only. Please play responsibly.
Okay, we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll tee up the rest of the series. We still got to hear from Rick Bowness on his hockey club going down last night, evening that series with Colorado. Carberry, head coach of the Washington Capitals, down 2-0 to the New York Rangers, and he took a little slice off of Ovi last night.
Oh, fancy, baby.
We'll get into that when we return to the Real Kyper and Bourne Show. Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee, getting you ready for puck drop tonight. What do y'all giggles?
Nothing. Got the funniest friends in the world. That's it. Yeah. All my buddies are hilarious.
Way to stay focused on our show.
Well, I was in the break. I want to stay locked in when we come back. So, just to talk about Verhaeghe being clutch, I wanted to bring up the numbers. This is from Sportsnet Stats, which is a wonderful follow on X if you like sports stats, which I do. Most career postseason OT goals. Joe Sakic has 8, who's an all-time leader, which is just an amazing stat. Maurice Richard has 6. Heard of him? Perry, Glenn Anderson, Carter Verhaeghe, and Patrick Kane are all tied at 5.
It's crazy.
That's unbelievable company.
Not a ton of opportunities.
Yes.
You know, maybe, I don't know, 3-4 a year. You got to be on some good teams.
Yeah. It's crazy.
3-4 a year if you're on good teams.
All right, let's follow that up with the fact that the Panthers found a way to go up 2-0 in this series with a 3-2 win off of that goal by Carter Verhaeghe. And
Felt like Tampa was going to get it.
The exhibition between goalie Bob and Vasilevsky, they were like heavyweights.
I mean, it was just brilliant to watch as a hockey fan. As a Canadian hockey fan, not as great if you're thinking about Russia potentially getting back into international competitions and having to beat one of those two guys in the big game's not a great thought, but they were both dialed in.
Yeah.
It was excellent to watch.
I mean, Bobrovsky was otherworldly, but the save he made, the spin around, backhand, desperation save, we'll see that on highlight reels for the next 100 years of hockey.
That was on Dumba.
Yeah, and
it was dumbfounded.
There's nothing you could do. He shoveled it hard into the middle of the net with the goalie facing backwards.
Well, I actually think there's a case to be made that Dumba hit it too well. It's the perfect shot. He one-timed a backhand and got pace and got it up. I mean, what? You don't want a guy to try to pick a corner there. You don't want him to slide on the ice. It's a perfect shot. It's an unbelievable save.
Would you like to hear Cooper talk about the goaltending battle and what he saw?
I would, yes.
All right, let's listen to that.
Well, you're looking at two of the best. And, to sit here and be in the biggest stage in the greatest league in the world and then watch two guys like that go toe-to-toe, it's, sometimes you have to sit here. I know I'm the coach of one of the teams, but kind of marvel at, some of the saves that were made. And, on that one save, Bob didn't quit on it. It's probably more on us than him. So, but you got to tip your hat to him. I thought the biggest saves were the two Vasi made after that save, which, at the time could have sunk us. But he, kept us in it. So, it was a pretty sparkling performance by both guys.
That's vintage Cooper.
ABC with Cooper is always be coaching.
Yes.
He is always
never
coaching.
stops.
Yeah, their guy saved it was good, but the
ours
two
were
our guy
better.
made, those
Way
were the saves.
better.
Save of the century, but we could have done better. It wasn't him.
It was on us.
Dom Hasek would have one of those every other night.
You know what blows my
That's
mind?
the way Dom goaltended.
Someone showed a video. They put a video on Twitter. They're like, yeah, this is like a similar save that Hasek made. I can't get over the quality of the video. I watched this hockey as a child.
Oh, I know.
It looks like it's like Rocket Richard era.
100 years ago.
I cannot believe
This was 2001.
Video cameras were terrible.
I know.
We were watching it. You ever go back and watch an old golf highlight where they just show the ball in the air?
I think cameramen were drunk or something back then.
When I was
technology was fine. They were just hammered.
When I was super sick around the Masters, I watched the 86 Masters broadcast on YouTube.
Yeah.
And delirious, by the way. I was coming in and out watching it.
Yeah.
They did an unbelievable job in 86 covering it, and they were all over it. But yeah, the quality of this is a
guy
different
makes a
world.
swing, then you look at the sky for 14 seconds, and then they show you where the ball ends up.
But Dom, if we're having a goalie debate, there's no better goalie I've ever seen in my life than Hasek. Hasek is the number one best goalie. I know Waugh has better. Brodeur has all the records, but there's no goalie I feared like Hasek. Number one, by far.
You too?
Oh, yeah.
He was
absolutely. And I can't.
You ever come close to scoring on him?
I think I did score on one goal on him. I did. But he'd be one of those where you think you got half the net, and then he just come out of nowhere like Superman.
The one where
and
he
shut you down, and you're
over.
going back to the bench going, what just happened to me?
No goalie coach would let him exist like that today. And in fairness, it probably wouldn't work with today's shooters, maybe.
The other, I've got amazing images of Dom in my head. The one that I can't get out of is that him in Czechia going back to get his memorabilia and throwing it in a shopping cart. You never saw that?
I've never seen it.
Yeah, something happened, and he had a ton of memorabilia, and they called him in and said, we don't need it anymore. You come and get it.
You just went and picked it up?
Just picked it up. he's just picking pieces up like a blocker. And I'm like, what is happening? This is the greatest goalie that ever played the game.
Broke my little heart in 2 pieces, too, in the Olympics when that shootout.
Oh, my God.
And Gretzky
But
sitting on the
he did
bench.
the intentional fallback rollover. Like he would commit to one knowing the roll was an option.
One important piece in that game, Sam Bennett leaves the game in the second period off of a Montour slap shot. Doesn't return.
Weak, they said.
I don't know.
That's large.
He went for X-rays today. Like, this could be devastating. I mean, we talked at length about Demko being out of that lineup. This guy means a ton to the Florida Panthers and what he brings nightly now for them.
So, sorry, I was just going to say that Maurice addressed it, and it said that he will be out for at least a week, and it's better than the Panthers first feared. What's the update
that's
on
good.
it?
I mean, depending on who you're cheering for, but you
So
know, that's
a clean break.
that would be better, I guess.
Avoid surgery.
Yeah.
But like that guy, watching him in the series against the Leafs last year, like completely changed the tone of the series.
Nailed
and
on.
absolutely put Jacob Slavin into another dimension in the conference finals. The literal hardest hit I've ever seen was Bennett on Slavin, I think.
Really
so
hard hit.
He is a game changer for them. That's a big loss.
No question.
Not enough to make the difference between Florida and Tampa, I don't think, but
All right.
it's a big one.
We mentioned also the New York Rangers being up 2-0 and what might be a very frustrated head coach out of Washington addressing the fact that Ovi, 30-goal scorer Ovi, had a very difficult 2 games at MSG.
The play, he gets a puck cross ice and he's getting pressure right away, so he just all of a sudden is surprised, and then he bobbles it and they turn it over. I thought the first 2 games looks a little bit off. He's struggling. I mean, it's hard. Like, it's the playoffs on the road. He's getting a tough matchup. So he's but I mean, it's 2 games, right? We're going back home now. We'll get an opportunity to be able to control the matchup for him, and he can flip it. Like, that's one thing about he can flip it in one game, and now he can all of a sudden be a difference maker and help us win a game, or be a driver in winning us a game on home ice.
All right, that wasn't horrible. I didn't hear that. You kind of teed it up a little bit for me.
I mean, rookie head coach calling him out, saying he's not very good.
I thought
wasn't horrible.
I thought he gave him a lot of outs.
That's what I got out
Coach
of
did
it.
a bit, but you gotta.
Yeah.
You're Spencer Carver. He's Alexander Ovechkin.
He said he looks a bit off and he's struggling. Those are genuine criticisms.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
but then he gave it the
Coach it.
whole. Well, he's got the
he's
tough matchups.
still a great
and,
guy, and-
yeah, he's got great teeth.
Did you see the play?
Yes,
oh
I
my
did.
God.
The back check.
Yeah, it was.
Well, I mean, he fumbles it.
Well, he's
which is
fumbling
okay.
it. He's not moving his feet, but there's a lot of moments in the game now where he doesn't move his feet.
Yeah. Right. It's like that wasn't like an isolated incident of him not moving his feet.
No.
It's typically kind of in the train tracks until it's time to chop, and get to the
But
spot.
in the history of the game, I bet you couldn't find any video of a guy during play that can stop on one spot and not move.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. I've read a thing on soccer, footy, if you will, for Sam, who's a closer follower, about Messi and how his distance traveled in a hockey or in a soccer game is the smallest. He conserves, and goes.
Yeah.
And that is Ovi at this point to me. And it's tough to be a conservationist in hockey.
It
You'd
is.
like your guys to get to the spots when, ahead of time, be proactive, and
Messi
that
gets the
element of
ball.
his game is gone.
Messi gets the ball and picks out a perfect pass like immediately.
Yeah.
And Ovi's just trying to blast it now.
Yeah,
and,
he's just trying to get to that spot.
These games don't matter to Ovi. We all know. He's saving it for the regular season.
Saving to get his records.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Do we want to sneak in an Burnett clip
What do we play
from
it?
Nashville?
We played it at the
Did
top.
we play it already?
Yeah, committed to the pain.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay.
So I thought, we could have a conversation on Hellebuck, because I think through 2 games in that series, I think there's some conversations about his playoff stuff.
Sad said he's been ventilated which is a hell of a word to describe a guy who's had holes put in him. But I mean, it's been a tough couple games.
His last 6 playoff games, he has a 1-5-0 record with a .434 goals against average and an .876 save percentage.
Yeah, not great, Bob. But
you think they're bailing on him?
No, I don't want.
I mean, who?
Brossoit's been good, though.
I think fans, yeah. I mean, it's playoffs. These games mean the most. It's when you start seeing them go in. And listen, like, you're not going to kill him for any of the goals that go in last night. But Josh Manson breaks in on a breakaway at the end of the period, and you're just like, can we just get a stop? And he makes a great move. I know,
really good move.
I know he does,
but he can't give up that 5-hole.
You make a save for your team,
Manson.
You're the Vezina favorite. Like, make one on the defenseman on the breakaway to keep him at 4-2, and that broke them. They come back. They don't win the game. So
it makes a good save that leads to their goal to make it 2-1. That kind of gets him started going the other way. He has some good moments, and to go to his defense even further, I think. In his NHL career, he's a .914 save percentage in the postseason. He's had stretches of being able to play in the big moments, and he'll find it. He's a great goalie, and he's not like one of these guys to me who, where he's just always having a bad series. Like, he's an elite goalie. I think you're going to get good performances ahead. I just want to interrupt this conversation to say that Kip scored against Hasek on March 13th, 1993, Whalers versus the Sabres. Assist from Adam Burt and Murray Craven. Thank you to Jobo, our producer.
Oh, my gosh. That is, why can't you crack information like that?
Kipper, because I am talking.
9 seconds ago, he's on air.
I talk. I talk.
That's stuff that you should have collected before we started the show 3 years ago. You should have a library beside you. Just snap it up.
A foresight of when we were talking about you scoring on Hasek. But that's sick. Scored on Hasek and you scored on Waugh too, right?
I did get one on him too. In the Montreal Forum.
Wow.
Pretty sweet.
So, a lot of people can say that.
Do we feel differently about the series because it was Georgiev stinks and Winnipeg still found a way to win, even though they gave up 6 in game 1, and there's no way Georgiev's going to save this thing for Colorado, and now we've got a different feel in game 3.
Not entirely for me. I know it is disconcerting if you're a Jets fan that Georgiev had a good moment, or Georgie the Fifth, as our friend Rob Brown called him. But he's an NHL goalie. He's capable of putting together a few good periods. I don't think that changes who he is. He's gettable.
I still think it's going deep. Still think it's probably going to be a 7-game series, but McKinnon is just good.
Okay, and you're not wrong, but the game changer in this series isn't McKinnon. It's Makar.
He's amazing.
And Winnipeg, they don't have one of those.
No one does. I mean, well, maybe Vancouver.
And that's for me. Like, when you watch these early games now, those star D stand out.
They do.
Okay, Yossi, Makar, like these type of guys. Hughes, Fox.
How about Bouchard?
They rise.
Yeah.
And I look at Winnipeg's blue line and I go, okay, they're okay. And Josh Morrissey is a good defenseman.
Really good.
Is he not more
he can't.
Morgan Riley, little better Morgan Riley maybe?
He is
like that
class.
He
like
is
a definite number 1.
He is.
But
see, Morgan Riley is a 2 to 3 for me.
I know, but you say that, but if you actually start writing a list, he's one of the 32 best.
Yeah, he's a number 1 on the Leafs. He's number 1.
But you're looking at a blanket across the league. I'm looking at it as where are you slotted when my team wins the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
And you're not leading the Stanley Cup charge. So that's why I look at Morgan Riley and I go, he for me slots 2 to 3, right? So I look at Josh Morrissey, and I like Josh Morrissey just a little bit more than I like Morgan Riley. They're both excellent defense, but Josh Morrissey can't do what a Makar can do in this series.
It's basically an unfair, who can, right?
But that could be the difference between winning and losing for me.
Yeah.
You know who's in that class too, and they don't really get talked about it, but they should, is Pietrangelo. Pietrangelo is in that upper tier. It's different
Well, I was
with
actually
him.
racking my brain as he said that, and I was like, the Penguins won a cup without Letang the one year. They didn't really have anyone, but Pietrangelo was with St. Louis that year. He was their guy. Same with Vegas.
It doesn't look like it does with McCarr or like with
less flash.
He's a little bigger, meaner,
massive, just big guy stud. I love Pietrangelo. So yeah.
Do you want to hear Bonus's take
let's hear
on
Bonus.
his thoughts on where the series is at?
Okay, perfect.
We were better. Yeah, we were a lot better in certain areas. We had some lapses. Certainly at the end of the second there, that kind of caught up to us a little bit. But we had the start we really wanted. Then they got their power play and they kind of finished up strong in the first. But for the most part, it was a lot better in areas, and there's still improvement to be made in other areas.
All right, so he's keeping it. Yeah, no panic.
There's a theme of our coaches' clips today was the stuff we're doing good, we need to keep doing, and the stuff we're doing bad, we need to do better. I found, it's like, okay, no one's saying anything.
I know it's non-playoff related, but we got a couple seconds here before we go. Have you seen the list of names that have been filed, the trademarks for Utah?
I have seen the list.
Would you like to hear them?
Kip loves these guys.
I know. That's why I brought it up.
Bring it to him.
Okay, the full list. The Utah Mammoth.
Very good.
The Utah Ice.
Awful. Worst name I've ever heard.
Utah Yetis.
Also like.
Utah Venom.
Nope.
Utah Fury.
No.
Utah Blizzard. The Utah Outlaws and the Utah Hockey Club, or Utah Head HC. Any pique in your interest, bud?
I'm not sure.
Mid.
Won't even engage.
I don't know. Mammoth.
What colors do you like for them? How many stripes on the sweater? No?
Just don't reinvent the wheel.
takers?
Just don't reinvent the wheel. Like, less is more with jerseys. We don't need the Kraken. We don't need the Golden Knights.
No.
Less is more.
Vegas was ridiculous.
Less is more.
Kraken did a nice sweater.
Yeah, but there you go. I thought I'd bring that up for you because I know you're just dying to know on this playoff game day what those names are kept. But in all honesty, I think it should be Utah Hockey Club, Utah HC.
I knew you'd say that.
It's nice. I like that. You can do a UHC, some kind of symbol, something plain. There you go.
Great.
I guess the owner had a few of the guys, maybe a dozen guys out there, 15 guys.
Oh, yeah?
Took them golfing. Yeah,
Nice golf courses
he
out there,
is
boy.
like.
Oh, took the owners?
The owner, Ryan Smith.
Who did
is
he
it?
I like this
But
guy.
who did he take out?
I think I heard about 10, 15 guys.
From where? Who?
No,
They flew
Arizona
him in.
Coyotes
They flew him
players.
in.
Oh, the players.
Yeah,
the
like come in,
players.
check out.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's
Took
going,
him
and families have gone out
golfing,
there. And
I heard
talked to
Keller
them.
likes to golf.
I heard
So
yeah.
he's a stick.
He's
Talking about what he's going to do for them, how they're going to be treated. They've wives, all of it.
Ryan Smith,
That's really smart.
he went on Pat
Really
McAfee
smart.
and shout out to them for what they're doing for hockey, trying to, kind of jam it into the mainstream in the U.S.
A good producer would get Pat McAfee on the show.
Well, let's get to it.
How many years now have we been trying to get it mainstream in the U.S. now? How long has it been?
Well, we had it 1996. It was ahead of the NBA.
No, but I
Back
mean,
in our glory days.
God love Pat McAfee. I mean, he was wearing a Jets jersey the other day talking about their barn. I guess he doesn't watch many of their regular season games, but barn's not as
Got
good
no
then.
football to talk about.
The draft's
Poor
on
guy.
Thursday, bud.
Oh, Thursday. Okay, then he starts
That's a big
up.
deal. That's a
Then
big
he starts
deal.
up.
Yeah.
What'd you guys think of kind of slid under the radar? Quinn getting fired, head coach of the San Jose Sharks.
If a tree falls in San Jose and
it's
they
his
fire
fault.
the tree.
It's
and,
his fault. They iced an
What did
ECHL
they-
team and they got him.
What
Good
a
job.
joke, eh?
Well, but it's not about you did a bad job. It's that we're doing a different thing, right? Like, what are you supposed to do with that group?
Good luck to the next head coach taking that thing.
He also
They
can't
did him
win.
a favor.
Hey,
They
he'll
should
be
hire
gone in
Charlie,
2 years.
what was the name here they had with the Blue Jays?
Oh, Montoya.
They should hire him.
Yeah, just move on.
All right.
11 a.m. tomorrow. 1 hour.
11 a.m. Eastern tomorrow. My producer has told me he can't find a clip of me scoring a goal, but
And
he
we're
can
gonna
tell
have
us
Pat
it's
McAfee
11
on.
a.m. Eastern tomorrow on the Real Kyper and Bourne Show. If you get a chance, give us a rating and review. We'd love to hear from you. Enjoy the games tonight, and we're back tomorrow at 11 a.m.
It's the jacket. The jacket. The jacket.